Hey guys, good morning. How you doing? I did want to release a different strategy for the breakout strategy, or a different method, where you would use options instead. Where you would use shares instead of options. We all know that options are a little bit more risky. Sure, you have leverage and you end up making more profit, but this is for the people that were asking about using the breakout strategy with a little bit more safety. To kind of to play around with the breakout, right? And this is definitely something if you have more money, if you're more liquid, if you have, 10, 20, 30, 50 grand, 100 grand to play with, this is definitely a safer route as opposed to just using options and potentially, just losing your money at the end of the expiration date, right? And the great thing about this is again, the breakout strategy is again very, very, very simple. It's very easy. It's very straightforward, with a little bit of modifications on the charts, right? So we can definitely start by just doing the breakout strategy on like you would regularly do it. So for example, right now I'm using the Roblox chart just because it's very, very, very clear chart of where price is going, where it went, and what it's doing, right? So exactly, we're looking at relative highs, which I would probably go to these relative highs of April 12th, right? So I'd probably do my relative highs back in April 12th, and I'd use relative lows from March 22nd. We can see that this is the same ascension from here to here, and then it's the retracement down. So you have that, essentially, that shark fin created, right? So you have that peak, you have lows, highs, and then you have these lows over here, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our fibs, touch that wick point for our relative high. You're gonna be using this point right here, right? That March 22nd low. You're basically gonna be using that, putting it all the way to the side, and you're gonna line it up right on that wick low, and you're gonna set your fibs right there. Whoops. That's where you're gonna set your fibs, right? So if we were following the breakout strategy, where would we have entered? We would have entered at the week of May 21st. Sorry, the week of May 24th. So you would have entered somewhere around this range right here. You would have entered here, and thankfully for Roblox, you would have probably made your profit immediately in the following week. 100%, you would have made your profit in the following week. And knowing how much this actually moved up, so if we would have gone somewhere like around this $85 level, right? If we held it all the way up to the fib level, you would have seen an increase of 14%. So you would have seen on your option contracts, you would have seen an increase of like 100 and over 100%, definitely. Again, depending on which ones you're holding, but you could have easily seen 100% gain on your contracts. But again, we're not looking for 100% gain right now. We're looking to play this a little bit on the safer side and to play this with shares. So as you guys can see on the forecast right now, if you go to the upside, we're looking at a net of that fib level of somewhere, or actually we would have gotten actually like 85, I said, right? Yeah, so it would have been right there. You would have had if you would have played this with shares, you would have had a net profit of around 14%. Again, definitely a lot lower than that potential over 100% gain. But again, shares are definitely a lot safer. This method, the strategy, is more for swing traders, and it definitely gives you a lot more time, right? You can be holding this for months on end until your price actually hits. And when it comes to actually swing trading this, I wouldn't actually recommend having having that thing that I have, right? You know how I told you guys that whenever we go over here, if you want to be really risky, you do 2.5%. If you want to be a little bit conservative, you do like a 5% net down, right? So 5% net down, I would actually stick to 2.5 right here. Whoops. So 2.5. Let's go 245, right? We'll do that. Again, set your square relatively to the price. So you would go down to what, 95.21. Boom. Go all the way to the right. Set it up. Set it to where it's basically the same, evened out on the top of the fib level extension. And then now what we're going to do is we are going to set our take profit levels, right? So our take profit 1, whoops, it's going to be right. Let me get out of that. It's going to be 95.21, 97.60, and then our last one is going to be $100.16, right? So that's going to be our top three, our take profits on 3 separate levels, right? You can take off this the forecast, but what's going to happen, there's going to be one extra step that you do with shares. You're going to be looking at having setting up a long position, right? So on the bottom left of your trading view, if you're using the mobile app, It's going to be somewhere the same place if you're using a PC, but you go to long position, you would set up where you would take the trade, so around $85, you would set it up there. And then what you do now is you would set up your long position to be, wherever you want to. If you want to take it, for the first take profit, then you would set your stop loss at a 2% ratio, right? So at a 2% risk reward. So you would set it up right there. So essentially what's going on right now is you're basically setting your price, your actual like entry price right here. So your entry is going to be right here. And your stop loss would be somewhere around this range down here. Let me see if I can, actually, let me get rid of that. There you go. Your stop loss would be right there. Let me get rid of this. Change the color. So your entry is up here. That's where your entry would be. Stop loss would be down here. And your first take profit level would be right there. Again, you can play the strategy however you want, depending on your momentum. But this gives you a risk reward of 2 to 1, right? Risk reward ratio is 2. So for every like, you're risking $10 to make $20 or to make $30, right? But this is essentially how you would play it. Minimum, it has to be a risk reward of 2 to 1. At least that's how you should play it. Right here, if you're buying shares, right? So again, your forecast, for the first take, so if you're taking your entry here, first take profit would be 12% gain. Second take profit would be like 15%, and third would be somewhere along the lines of 18% or so. So I'm telling you that, if you buy 100 shares of Roblox, you take 50 shares out, first take profit, the next 25 shares out here, and the last 25 up here. And you would have hit every single one of those take profits. You would have hit right here. On that same week, you would have hit. But again, this is essentially what you should do. Your long positions should always be a 2 to 1 ratio. It's just that extra step that you got to do for your shares. Again, it's a little bit, I don't want to say it's a little bit safer just because you're holding shares and your time doesn't expire. But again, your leverage does definitely drop down a whole bunch because you're now using shares, and the most that you can make now is like 15% as opposed to making 150% on your gains because you're using leverage on your options. So again, I hope this video is helpful for those that want to swing trade instead of actually, doing options. But this would definitely be more, it would be a lot better on the safer side if you have a smaller account, or if you have a really big account. So if you have like $100,000 account and you get a 15% gain, that's 15 grand for you right there, right? And that's your play of the month or play of the week, whatever your criteria is. But again, this method is definitely a lot better on an R&R basis, on a risk reward basis, right? So if you take 10 trades and you lose like 6 of them, those 4 trades will basically net you a break even or profit, even if you lose most of the trades that you take. But again, this is definitely a lot safer because you're holding shares. So if you're doing, like I said, either a big account or you're starting off, I definitely recommend using the breakout strategy based off of shares. That way you don't risk a lot of money up front and you're still slowly growing your accounts. So I'll see you guys later. Have a great weekend.